So we have a moose hide inside of a giant Ziploc bag, basically. And someone went hunting, skinned it, tried to not put holes in it when you're skinning it. And the idea is when you're skinning to leave as much meat on the animal as possible, because that protects the meat. And you're doing two things at the same time. One, you're protecting the meat by leaving the thin membranes on top of it, so it helps that aging process or trimming later, and you're not wasting any meat. The other thing that it does is it saves your scraping time, because you're not having to scrape off as much meat and flesh and fat. And then you would fold it up, and usually put all the skin sides together and roll it up towards the hair on the outside. You put it in a bag or in a bucket or a garbage can or someplace the animals can't get to it, and then leaving it for a couple weeks or up to 2 months. The idea is to ferment the hide, and that makes the hair slip off easier, and then it actually makes the hide softer in the end too, because you're breaking apart those kind of connective tissues inside the skin. The first time that I learned how to do hides, Helen said to put it in a black garbage bag in a bucket and put it in the sun. And so I did that, and then 2.5 months later we came to her, she's like, oh, that's been there long enough. And I'm like, oh, it didn't need to be for 2.5 months in 70-degree weather. It was still fine, and I have that hide still. So that was the first hide that we did together with brain tanning. So this one's been about 3 weeks and more in like the 50s to 60s as a high and out of the sun. So it's a gentler bacteria action, so it just takes a little bit longer. You don't want to get it wet. That's the important thing for this stage. If the hide is drenched and waterlogged and you age it, you're probably going to get holes from the hide actually rotting all the way through. The dry that I'm talking about is just dry from the animal, so you're not drying it out like you would hack it out and salt it. There's no salt used, there's no laying it out to let the skin dry out. It's just not applying water at this stage of the process from the dry. You want the hair to be dry. So if you harvest a moose in the rain, it's going to have some water on it, which is okay. And I don't usually try and dry it out anymore. I just roll it up and put it in a bag, and then be mindful of that one, that's going to be needing to be gotten to faster. So I'm going to open up the bag, and then the Ziploc bag, and then it's in a garbage bag just to kind of protect the Ziploc bag from getting tears in it. And then I'm going to be pulling out the hair. And because we're here and we have the river kind of ocean meeting, we're going to rinse it out in the water to kind of carry away some of that juices that have come to the surface, and to help hydrate the skin a little bit better. That's one of the things for scraping. When the hide is hydrated, you're able to scrape off that kind of top layer that's plump almost. And if it's dry, you're not going to be able to scrape off as much. So it's doing a couple things for us. We're washing out some of that smell and the blood, and then we're also hydrating the skin. So when I'm doing this on the road system and like in the city, I will work with the hair to where I try and keep the hair in a dry state and put it all in a bag as I'm pulling. I pull as much off as I can into a bag because it's going to blow everywhere, and then you have moose hair all over everyone's yards. So I try and do that. And then the stuff that won't come off, I'll take a pressure washer and I'll pressure wash her off. And if I don't have, I try and have a backdrop to catch the stuff. If I do use the river or the ocean to get the hair off, and it takes it away, and it's more of that like continuing life cycle model, then I will pressure wash it later too. And it needs to be in water multiple times, wrung out water. And that's, so if I'm doing it in the city rather than coming to the river, I'll have to change the water out and like dump it down the drain or down a toilet, depending on really where you are, because sometimes it clogs up drains, and then soak it again and then dump the water out rather than just leaving it in the river for 3 days and the river's just washing over it. So you have to be that moving water action for it. I'm usually working in plastic. You don't want to use steel, anything that rusts. So it could be a galvanized tub. I usually have garbage cans or jet sleds or totes that I'm working in, because the metal is just, once you get any type of bend or you hit it, get a crease in the galvanized tubs, they tend to rust a little bit there. And you just start grabbing handfuls, and I just toss it out in the water. This is Helen's preferred way of doing it. You can shave off the hair, which I've done. It's nice because you get the top layer of skin that you have to scrape off. Just go like that. So you have to get like skin and then just slide. So as you get towards the fur that's short, it's harder to remove. So this is the front shoulder, and it just requires more pinching and pulling than the back hair if it's longer. And that's where the aging process, if you don't age it long enough, these parts don't pull out really at all. So you just have to scrape them out, which is fine. As I'm aging, I know that like, oh, that's been in there for a couple weeks. It was a big moose. Big moose tend to take longer to age, and I know that they can last for 2 to 3 months. So ideally, I try and age them for like 6 weeks, and then you're pretty guaranteed that the hair is going to take less effort than I'm doing right now, or we're doing right now. But 3 weeks at warm weather was enough to make most of the hair slip off easily. How you get hides today is different than kind of historically or traditionally, where you're hunting in the fall, so your time to age is not necessarily going to be summer. But if you get a roadkill, or you freeze your hide and then in the spring take it out of the, or spring midsummer take it out of the freezer, then you can do it during the summer when it's warmer out. I like to do the hide work either in early summer or late summer, fall. And then the brain tanning part of it can be indoors in the winter, and then it just seems like a better use of time when you're... So our goal for this process is to get as much of the hair off as possible. The leg part that's here, that's really hard to pull off. Like some spots might be easy, so it's just a quick go over on these, but then up here it's much more difficult, and it's just faster actually to kind of scrape that off because it's a cutting action that takes place. What we're gonna do now that we've done like half of the hide almost, we'll turn it around to where this part that has a lot of the loose hair on it, we'll put in the river and that'll get washed away, and then we'll be able to see like, is this loose hair or is this hair that actually needed to be pulled off? And you can see the blood is starting to already come out of the skin just by putting it in the water. And a lot of times what I'll do is if it's hard to find, like this is harder to remove, so I'll go and find a spot that's easier and work from the easy spot, and then you're able to get the parts that were harder before. So on the Kenai Peninsula, there didn't really used to be moose because there weren't a lot of willows here. It used to be a very large woodland caribou. The caribou were actually large, some of the largest in the world, and then there was a large population of them. And in the 1800s, there was a series of years where there was really bad forest fires, and then the Russians were trying to mine gold here, and so they continued the burning process that was happening, and they almost the entire Kenai Peninsula burned, and it nearly eradicated the caribou from here. And after you have a forest fire, willows grew up, and the moose migrated down. And caribou is smaller, but it's thinner, which just makes it more comfortable and quicker to work with. The other thing too is we used to trade with our Ahtna relatives, neighbors, caribou for fish too, because they would have, after that happened, they still had caribou. There still are caribou here on the Kenai Peninsula and in the Kenai Mountains. It's just that there's not a huge herd, and in this area it's very much illegal to hunt them. I think they do like raffle drawings for hunting in the Kenai Mountains for caribou, and they do a certain number that's small that can be harvested a year. So the constant pinching of your thumb to like your index finger, like mine have about 9 pounds of pinching force that can be done, and that wears out as you do this. If you use your fingers like that and hold them together, you're able to use each finger, so you're getting, what is that, 4? You're getting 8 different fingers that are being used rather than just your 2 thumbs. So you're helping your hands last longer. And then these ones, I'm just taking like a fistful of hair and ripping. And so it's not just being the whole action. That's where I'm taking the palm of my hand and then pinching with my fingers and then ripping. So I'm not having to use my thumb at all, really, because your thumbs wear out first. If I were to have left it a little bit longer, then the hair would be coming out a little bit easier with like another week's worth of aging. And you kind of don't know until you get into it. Because I lost 5 hides to bears that I was aging. It would have been way faster than what we're doing right now. Because you can just grab and go like that and it all flies off, and it's like a half an hour.
Have you ever put it back when it's like, oh, it's not ready?
I might wait a day, like get it wet and then wait a day.
Yeah.
That's probably good for what we're gonna get right now.
Yeah.
And then we could go ahead and rinse it. The rest will probably come off just as easily with a draw knife at this stage.
Okay.
So Jeanie says that we want to cut it to about like your eye level, so you can put the hide over it to shave the hair, and so you can hold it at the same time.
Hold it. Carpenter saw.
It's a carpenter saw, not a lumberjack saw.
No. She is really small. It's good. I like it like that.
It's a little one. It's still a little solid.
Yeah.
We'll just pull them out, stretch them out. Yeah, see, it's still even a little frozen.
Yeah.
There. But it's nice and fresh still. You see, it's still
yeah,
intact.
it is.
It's good.
That's a little calf look like, huh?
Yeah.
You hang it on by that
By
way.
the tail?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So you're going against the grain, right?
Yep. It'll thaw out in a little bit.
Okay. This is the hide that we got. It's a roadkill hide from Bruce Kane, and it's a really young female. So it's been put in the freezer once it was skinned, and now we're working on it as it dethaws right in the sun.
Let me try something. You don't push it down. You got to leave it this way so you don't make hole in it.
Okay. Like at an angle?
Yeah, in an angle like that.
So you just want to shave it down so you still have like 1/4 inch of hair, kind of?
Not even,
Not even quarter?
yeah, but that,
Really tiny, huh?
really tiny.
Like buzzed kind of on there, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So really close to the skin,
Mm-hmm.
even like almost like a 1/16 of an inch, huh?
And you know why?
tiny.
You know why? You know the way you guys do it before you let it rotten?
Mm-hmm.
This part never came off, you know.
Just the hair came off.
Yeah, that's why it was hard to tan. But if you scrape this one with Nuggy Gay, then it'll come off. It'll be just thin. It's easier to tan. I did pretty good on that. My hand is too weak, that's why.
Do you want me to hold it for you?
No, this one is too weak.
Oh, gotcha.
But somebody that can do it really good with a strong hand.
Mm-hmm.
You want to try it?
Sure. Oh, look at close.
Pretty close, you almost
Almost did it.
sit down.
Like this?
Uh-huh,
Like that?
yeah. See? Yeah.
Ooh. Ooh. You can really get down there. You have to be... Ooh.
If you put
Jeanie.
it straight down, it'll cut.
So you're going to want to angle the blade a little bit towards you so you're not getting too deep on the hide. Because if you go straight down, you're going to cut through the hide and leave a hole.
You get the feel of it after a while, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Where you're not going so much, it's almost like these kind of like long stroke. So you're going to want to hold the hide towards you at an angle, and then you're going to hold your knife at an angle downward, and you just want to go really slowly alongside the hair or against the grain of the hair, so you get like a nice kind of like little texture buzz right here. So you're leaving the hair on there, so when you scrape it with the nagige, you're able to thin it and able to pull off all the epidermis that's left on
You can go over it.
a couple times.
Uh-huh.
So if you're learning and you want to be cautious not to get too close to the skin, you can go over the same part a few times. And
Oh, she's the pro here. Jeanie, you mentioned about the sharpness of the knife. You probably have to stop and sharpen the knife a lot, huh?
Yeah. Now, when you get it this far, you can use that nakige or kind of knife like this to scrape that thing off. See how it looked when I took all that thing off? This is the way it'll look when you take this part off.
hold the hide tight and watch your hands while you're doing this, because as you go, you're going to be able to saw more. And you're creating like a little bit of a ridge, so you have something that you're kind of sawing it against. It's like a motion of going across this sort of ridge that you create with its tautness as you're going down.
You see? You're getting there. Well, that's enough when you get that far. Don't
get
go
too close.
Too close to your hand.
Like right here, you want to stop. You don't want to get any
yeah.
closer. It's a good hide to work on, I think, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Here's I'll be working on my own for the most part. Ooh, look at close. Oops, this is still frozen.
My mom never made a hole in it. When she did, she sewed it together before she started
Working on it.
working on it, like scraping it.
The short hair is a little bit softer. It's a little harder to do.
Yeah, it is. That's slippery too.
Yeah, so we go slower. Just keep going back over the same spot, huh? Yeah, the hair is different. You can tell. It's a little bit lighter
See
or
how
something.
it slips?
Yep.
If it's like that, you could use like igay on.
Oh, really? Just leave it like that?
Yeah.
And just move on? Okay.
Just move on until.
The rest is like that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You can tell it's really important to get that narrow roll. That's the working edge.
Yep. And then like right here, it's the thinnest, right? So it's on the neck.
Yeah, that's
so it's
hard.
It's hard to do it there because it makes it just like really thin lines.
Yeah.
When it's like thick over here, it's like you can make like a big cut. It's like here, it's a little bit trickier. I can definitely feel myself like hitting the skin sometimes. It's going good.
Oh, yeah, you're doing good.
As long as it's dry. But down here, I'll have to stop a little
The
bit.
hair is still need to be dry, not the inside.
Yeah, just the hair.
Yeah. You might be able to finish it, look like.
Well, at least the top part. The edges are kind of hard, but we'll get there.
So how do you get the edges? Do you put it against something?
No, just that way, just extra careful.
So I'm just going back over some of the parts we shaved already to just thin it out where some spots were left. And you're going to realize as you go through the hide that there's different parts of the hair that are going to be a little bit easier to grab onto and a little too. You just want to take it slow. Because I find down here, Jeanie, it's real thick. So it's easy to kind of cut through because you don't realize where it's at. When I was doing it down over here.
Yeah, it's wet. You can't cut it that wet.
Oh, you can't cut it when it's wet?
That wet. I mean, just like around here, it's good.
You want it to be dry?
Not too dry. No.
Okay.
Just see how it feels around here.
Yeah. So not too dry, but not too wet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Grandma Jeanie, what would happen if it's too dry?
Cut your hand.
Too soft.
Yeah, it'll slip.
What happens if it's too wet?
It's like you almost cut the skin if you'll cut too deep because it like clumps up. It seems like when it's a little bit drier, you're able to shave it because it separates. It's like
This
too
one
hard
is
to
not
grip.
separated. See, just hard to cut it.
Because like when you're starting to cut it, it's not going to come off. See, you cut so deep, even with just like a little bit. So when we started this process, I was learning kind of the Dena'ina way of doing this, whereas you rot the hide and then you use water to help wash away the hair and pull it off. And it gets like real kind of stink and rot. But this way is the way Jeanie Maxim's taught me, where you're actually shaving the hair, so you leave a little bit of the hair onto the hide, and that helps when you're doing the nagige process to thin it out and to work on it in a fresh way, so it's not so much stink, and you're able to just kind of get it done, at one time, removing all the hair with this shaving process.
I remember her. I was about 10 years old. My mom went over there and she was working on that moosehide like that. She does it all by herself. All day it takes her to flush it and cut the hair off. And then she wash it and hang it up. She starts about 8 in the morning and get done around about 6 and 7.